It is 3 minutes past the hour here. The clock is ticking on what could be a major announcement in the Trayvon Martin case. Special prosecutor Angela Corey said last night she'd have something to say within 72 hours. It could be whether George Zimmerman will be charged in the fatal shooting. And just when it seems Zimmerman will really need an attorney, his legal team has left him. Attorneys Craig Sonner and Hal Uhrig quit after Zimmerman cut off contact, ignoring their calls, emails, and their legal advice. In just a moment, we'll talk live with those two lawyers. But first, let's go to CNN's George Howell. He is live in Sanford, Florida. And George, do we have any idea what the special prosecutor, Angela Corey, is going to say today? Or, I'm sorry, within 72 hours, but we hear that perhaps maybe sooner.
Good morning. At this point, still unclear exactly what that announcement may be. Could it be a decision in the case? Still to be determined, but say it is a decision in this case. There are a lot of questions. First of all, how would the prosecutor reach George Zimmerman with a decision? Clearly, it would not be through his attorneys, as they are unable to reach him themselves. Also, where is he? Is he in Florida? Is he still in the United States? And also, they will be looking into the possibility, is he a flight risk at this point? Some of the questions that the prosecutor must be looking into, as you can imagine, after that bombshell announcement yesterday that the attorneys will no longer be representing George Zimmerman. But again, we've heard from Angela Corey's office that she has taken time in this case to be very thorough and methodical as she looks at the facts. Take a listen to what she had to say.
If you make an arrest on probable cause and you can't prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, then that's a short window of time that the perpetrator will serve in jail. We always try to work with the police to build stronger cases before we make the arrest.
Now, what we know, per the attorneys, that they lost contact with Zimmerman on Sunday. We also know, though, that he did reach out to Sean Hannity with Fox News, also reached out to the state attorney, but the attorneys there did not speak with him, given that he has no legal representation. The prosecutor just decided not to speak with him. We also know that George Zimmerman set up a website that his former defense team did not know about initially, a website called The Real George Zimmerman. They thought initially that it might have been a fraud, later determined that it was legitimate, but a lot of things came to light that they were unaware of that he was doing at the time, and they say that they are concerned about his mental stability. Take a listen.
George Zimmerman, in our opinion, and from information made available to us, is not doing well emotionally, probably suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. For those who are engaged in the late Easter egg hunt looking for him, you can stop looking in Florida. Look much further away than that.
The attorneys expressed their concern about his mental stability. And again, at this point, everyone asking the question, where is George Zimmerman?
All right, George Howell, live in Sanford, Florida for us. Thank you very much.
So George Howell asks a very good question. Where is George Zimmerman? Perhaps the only people who've had some of the latest contact, George Zimmerman's former attorneys, Craig Sonner and Hal Uhrig, who join me now live. Gentlemen, thanks so much for taking the time to get up and speak with me this morning. You have both been taking some serious, good morning, you've been taking some serious heat from a lot of your colleagues and legal analysts for the news conference that was held yesterday, where you announced that you're stepping down from the case. Do you have any regrets about announcing publicly that you've dropped I don't want to say drop the case, because there is no case, but that you've dropped out of the representation of George Zimmerman?
Let me say this. First of all, as it relates to the heat that we've caught, you know, it's easy for the Monday morning quarterbacks to say why you should have run a running play instead of a passing play because it was intercepted. We don't think we've done anything improper or illegal, and we certainly don't think we've done anything to hurt George Zimmerman. To characterize what we did as quitting perhaps is not entirely accurate. We simply wanted to acknowledge the fact that under the circumstances, we could not ethically continue to tell the press or anybody else that we're still representing him.
So that's, I think, where a lot of the criticism has come, is based on the ethics. And I think there's some question about Florida law and where retention and privilege kicks in. But maybe you guys can clear this up. And Craig, jump in if you'd like here. Were you in any way retained, even though there wasn't a document signed? Were you anyway verbally retained by George Zimmerman, and therefore did privilege kick in?
George Zimmerman asked me to be his attorney. At first we said, well, as a legal advisor, but then later he said, I want you to be my attorney, and that was our agreement. I don't think we've done anything to violate attorney-client privilege. We've discussed nothing that I've discussed with in confidence with George Zimmerman. Everything that we've discussed are all things that were disclosed to the media through other sources.
And just what about
Ashley?
Go ahead, Hal.
Ashley, something that you and I discussed before is that we're all ignorant just on different topics. The subject of attorney-client privilege is a little bit more complicated than you pick up off the TV shows. I've listened to some of the complaints, frankly, even on this network from Mr. Garagos and Mr. Baez. They're frankly incorrect. I checked the list of people whose opinions I really treasure. They're not on the list. Attorney-client privilege means something your client told you in confidence with the expectation that you will not repeat it. It doesn't mean repeating things that are already out in the public, that are already known to other people, even just one other person.
Did George Zimmerman reach out to you at all after the news conference?
No.
No.
Are you expecting that he still may be? Because I took it from your comments that you are still available for representation should he so desire.
That's correct. I mean, everything that I've represented in the media about George Zimmerman, I believe that he's gotten a raw deal from the media, that the media has tried to convict him wrongfully, that when the facts come out, that it's going to show he acted in self-defense, that the police department made the proper decision and not arrest him because there was not probable cause to make the arrest. And you know, he needs legal help, and I'm still here to provide that for him. But at this point, it wouldn't be ethical for me to stay on the case for, now it's going on 3 days, that he's not communicating with me in any shape or form, and he's communicating with other people. I can't hold myself out as representing him, although he did agree that he wanted me to represent him in days past. Something changed around Sunday, and he cut off all contact and has started doing things without telling me he's doing that.
And I want you to expand on that for me, Craig. Speaking to people who you had advised him not to speak to, specifically calling the prosecutor, and this information, as I understand it, did not come from George Zimmerman to you. This came from the prosecutors who reached out to you to tell you that Zimmerman had contacted them and wants to talk. Do you have any idea what else he said to them?
Well, I don't know, because it's my understanding that the prosecutor wouldn't talk to him, and they called me, which is the right thing to do. They knew that he had representation, so they wouldn't speak with him. That was the right thing for the prosecutor to do, and they called and said, you know, he's called me here, and we confirmed that, you know, we compared phone numbers and confirmed that it was George Zimmerman who called him. So, you know, they acted correctly.
What was it he was looking to do? Do you have any idea why he reached out to the prosecutors? What did he want from them?
Well, I think he wanted to give his side of the story to the prosecutors, and we were going to arrange for that to happen, and we were in the process of arranging for a meeting place so that could take place safely for George. And I don't know why he didn't, you know, if he would have worked through me, I would have allowed him to make his statement.
Did you have a date? Did you have a date on the books for a meeting with the prosecutors and George Zimmerman?
We wanted to, but George wasn't returning my phone calls so that we could make arrangements for him. We were going to make arrangements for somebody to meet him, and so that he could go to a place that wouldn't be known by the media or anyone else, so that he could give his statement to the prosecutor, and Hal and I, or Hal or I, would have been with him when he made that statement, so there wouldn't be any confusion about whether he was, you know, so no one would accuse the prosecutor of taking him aside and interrogating him in
without
secret
a lawyer present. Understandable.
Say things he didn't want to.
Among the many bombshells yesterday was this one, when you mentioned that and I think it was you, Hal, who mentioned if you're looking for George Zimmerman in Florida, keep looking. He's not here. I think that came as a surprise to many people. It came as a surprise to Trayvon Martin's family. How do you know he's not in Florida? And the second part of that question, where is he? Is he close by? Is he in the country at least?
Well, let me deal with that. First of all, we got some heat for saying that as though we had disclosed some terrible attorney-client privilege. An attorney-client privilege is when only you and the client are sharing that confidential information. We were certainly not the only ones that knew not where he was, but that he was not in Florida. That list of people includes the prosecutor's office, law enforcement, and his family. The idea that he's a flight risk, I think, should be dispelled by the fact he was trying to come in and see the prosecutor. They've got his phone number. He's got their phone number. We've got no reason to believe he's going to try to flee. He has simply distanced himself for safety purposes. And by making that statement, we were hopeful also that media or New Black Panthers or others might not be staking out family members or homes or other places and endangering other people in search for him here in Florida.
So another one of the criticisms that came after the press conference yesterday, gentlemen, was that in making the announcement, it wasn't but a few hours before Angela Corey came out with an announcement herself that within 72 hours she's going to have some news to make. Some of the critics said that by dropping his representation of George Zimmerman, you perhaps might have exposed him to some fears on behalf of the prosecutor that she needs to make a move and arrest him, because who else can they call to track down your client? Are you concerned about that?
I think that's nonsense. They know who they can call. They have already talked to George Zimmerman. They have his phone number. He's got their phone number. If he was going to flee, he wouldn't be trying to come in. The idea that suddenly, because we announced that we can't communicate with our client, that he's going to flee the country, frankly, is just silliness.
Is there any other piece of evidence, piece of information that could be a game change in this case right now that you could speak about that wouldn't violate privilege, wouldn't violate ethics?
We have told you before that we believe that there's information and evidence in the possession of the prosecutor, the investigators, the police department, Department of Law Enforcement, that if publicly known might change some of the course of public opinion. We're not at liberty to disclose it. We don't have possession of it. What little we know might disclose the confidence as to where we learned about it, and we're simply not going to go there.
Perhaps on another day. I do appreciate both of you joining us so early this morning. Craig Sonner and Hal Uhrig joining us live from Florida. Thank you, gentlemen.
It is 14 minutes past the hour. Still ahead. Game on. The ball now fully in Mitt Romney's court after Rick Santorum calls it quits. The battle with President Obama already hitting a new level. And Hawaii admitting to a $75,000 mistake. A pricey problem could have been avoided with one phone call. We're going to tell you all about that. You are watching Early Start.